Well, the basketball exhibition came back just in time for a little bit of hope before we head into what's probably going to be a weekend of despair.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in to Locked On Northwestern, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Carter Byrd, and thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day for anything and everything Northwestern. Apologies, we're coming to you a little bit later today. Had some scheduling issues with work, but thank you for making us your first listen for anything and everything Northwestern. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can find us. We're also available on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern, and you can find us wherever you are listening. Make sure you subscribe, turn on the notifications. Make sure you leave a comment. Give us some feedback so we can improve the show. We're always looking to make it better, and we really appreciate it. I'm your host, Carter Byrd, and also today's show is brought to you by Underdog. Sign up at underdogfantasy.com with promo code Locked On and get your first deposit matched up to $100. All right, so let's get into this a little bit here. We're going to start by recapping the Northwestern exhibition basketball game against Quincy. They got the 69-49 win on Wednesday night. We obviously didn't talk about it on yesterday's show because we were having our crossover with Locked On Buckeyes. But it's interesting when you look at this game. The defense was there. Kind of suffocating defense. Held Quincy to below, I think, 32% from the field. But as a team, Northwestern did not shoot the ball well in this one. 39.3% from the floor, 30.8% from three. You'd like those numbers to be a little bit higher. But they did block 9 shots. I thought that was an interesting number, a very high number. Several guys were involved in this game. Only 3 fast break points. Not exactly a team that's getting out and running the floor in the fast break, trying to pick up some quick and easy points. Only 8 turnovers in the game, which I thought was an impressive number. If this team can protect the basketball, that'll allow them to stay in some games as this season goes on and maybe win some games that people don't expect them to win. Some highlights from this game. Chase Audige led the team with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He played well. He had a plus-minus of 22 in the game. He had a block and a steal as well. Did have 4 turnovers, so you don't love that. He had half the turnovers for the game that Northwestern had. But he shot the ball well, 5 of 9 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, and 3 of 3 at the free throw line. Boo Buie is your other star that I guess had double digits. You had 5 guys finish in double digits in a game where he only scored 69 points, which I found interesting. Boo Buie had 12 points, pair of rebounds, 4 assists. He did have a turnover. He shot horribly, though. He was 2 of 14 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. His plus-minus, though, was actually plus 20. Titus Verhoeven, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He had 4 of the 9 blocks and a steal. He was efficient, 5 of 7 from the field, and showed really, really, really strong defense on the back end, down low for this Northwestern team. Robbie Barron had 10 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, crashed the boards really well, led the team in rebounds, was plus 21 in his plus-minus. Brooks Barnheiser, 11 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 3 steals. He was very efficient, 4 of 5 from the field, 3 of 3 from deep. Played good defense, and his plus-minus was up at 16. All in all, I mean, exhibition game, you kind of just want to handle a game like this, and Northwestern did. I don't think it was necessarily the most impressive performance, but I don't think it was a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that it's something that they can absolutely build on going forward as they get ready for that Monday game against Chicago State. Now let's transition to the football game on Saturday. We're going to talk a little bit about this, a little bit more about this matchup, and we're going to start making our weekly picks that we always make. Look, you're back home game after a couple games on the road against what I believe is the best team in America. They have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, Ohio State does. Northwestern's defense is reeling a little bit after giving up 33 points to Iowa. That was averaging 14 points per game coming into that game. Really frustrating performance last week, especially when you allow 252 yards in the first half to a team that averages 227 yards a game. Ohio State's offense, I think, is probably too fast and too explosive for Northwestern's defense. Northwestern's offense is going against statistically the best defense they've played all season long. You have to find a way to get Evan Hull going. He has to have a big game on the ground if you want to compete in this one at all. Sullivan needs to use his legs. He needs to pick up those third manageables with his legs when nobody's open. You got to win one-on-ones on the outside. I'm not sure how much that is going to happen. And you really just want to see this team compete. You want to see this team stay in the game. Don't let this Ohio State team jump on you early and kind of smash you to bits in the first quarter, because Northwestern, I'm not sure they have the ability to scratch back in a game like this. Keep it respectable. The line is Ohio State minus 38.5. The over-under is 55. And unfortunately, as we said on the crossover episode, I don't see this going well. You got to wonder, where is Northwestern at mentally heading into this game, coming off 7 straight losses and including a game where I really thought they would compete against Iowa. I didn't think they'd give up a bunch of points, and I thought that they could score enough to hang in there, and neither was the case, as they gave up 33 and scored 13, and that includes the as time expires touchdown that's really nothing more than a moral victory touchdown there at the end to make it a 33-13 game. I think you got to pick Ohio State minus 38 in this game and over 55.5. As much as it pains me to say it, I just don't see very much of a way that Northwestern hangs with this Ohio State team. And I think it could be a long game once it starts at 11 a.m. here Central Time in Evanston. So that's kind of how I see that one going. In a second, we're going to take a look around the Big Ten. But first, let's talk about our friends at Underdog. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football season. It's easy to get started and easy to play while watching your favorite team in action. Easy to play and available in over 30 states. They actually have lines this week for Northwestern. Brendan Sullivan, his over-under for passing yards is 129.5. Evan Hull's over-under for rushing yards is 50.5. Malik Washington, his over-under for receiving yards is 48.5. Bryce Kurtz, over-under is 30.5 receiving yards. And Donnie Navarro, over-under 28.5 receiving yards. Look, if I was going to make picks on this, I would take the over on Brendan Sullivan's passing yards. I think he's going to have to throw for more than 130 yards. I take the under in Evan Hull, just because we've seen against good defenses, he struggles to get going this year. I'd probably go under with Malik Washington at 48.5 yards. Probably go over with Bryce Kurtz at 30.5 and Donnie Navarro at 28.5. And that's probably how I would look at those totals. I just think that there may be a lot of underneath stuff in this game, trying to get the ball out of Brendan Sullivan's hands. But I do think by sheer volume that Brendan Sullivan is going to have to throw, he will surpass 129.5 yards. Go to Underdog to make your own picks. Just pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just your own team, and decide whether they will finish higher or lower than their total. It's one of the easiest ways to compete out there and win cold hard cash on a single game. Make sure you go to Underdog and make your own picks. Sign up with promo code Locked On, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. So deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find Underdog Fantasy or the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. Also, thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so now that we are through talking about the Ohio State Northwestern game, let's look around the Big Ten. And we're going to start Minnesota at Nebraska. The line in this game is Minnesota. They are 14.5-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5. Minnesota kills bad teams. They absolutely kill them. Tanner Morgan and Mo Ibrahim, I think that they are a truly dangerous duo back there for Minnesota now that Tanner Morgan's back. I think Nebraska can score some, but I don't think it matters. I think Minnesota scores a lot. Give me Minnesota minus 14.5 in this game, and the over 44.5. All of these picks, all these lines actually are brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Next up, Iowa at Purdue. Purdue is a 3.5-point favorite in this one. Over under 38. Iowa's offense sucks. It's really, really bad. The Northwestern game was an anomaly. That's what I'm going to call it until Iowa shows me they can do it more than once. Purdue is solid. I believe in them. I really do. I like the quarterback. I like Aiden O'Connell. I like Charlie Jones. Give me Purdue minus 3.5. Under 38.5 in this one. I do think Iowa's defense is capable of keeping it low scoring. I just don't think they're going to be scoring a lot on offense themselves. Next up, Maryland at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 4.5-point favorite in this one. Over under of 49. Huge game for Wisconsin. Bowl eligibility is still on the table. They need to win it. Jim Leonhard needs to win it to continue to prove to the powers that be in Wisconsin, the power brokers, that this needs to be his job, and he is the future of Wisconsin football. But look, Maryland's a scrappy team. I think could be a back and forth tight game. Give me Maryland plus 4.5 in this one, and I'll take over 49. I think Maryland's capable of putting up some points and keeping the pressure on the Wisconsin offense to get something done. I don't trust Graham Mertz. I don't think he's that good. Next up, number 15, Penn State. On the road at Indiana. Penn State is a 13.5-point favorite in this game, over under a 50. IU is really, really, really bad. And I wonder how long things are going to continue under the current regime at Indiana. Penn State's very, very solid. I don't think they're a great team by any stretch. I think you've seen that as they've dropped the Ohio State and Michigan game. Michigan blasted them in their matchup. Penn State can run the football. I think that they can do more on offense. And as a result, I'm going to take Penn State minus 13.5 in this game, and I'll take the over 50 in that one. Next up, Michigan State at number 16, Illinois. The line is Illinois minus 17 in this game, and an over-under of 41. Illinois is very, very good. They're going to win the Big Ten West. I firmly believe that now. What Brett Bielema has done there has been really, really impressive. Their defense is awesome. Their D coordinator is going to get basically whatever D coordinator job he wants, and maybe even some head coaching jobs after this year. They have Chase Brown running the football. He's one of the top 10 backs in the country. He's really impressive. Michigan State, it's been a week of turmoil with the incident that took place in the tunnel at Michigan with their players assaulting a couple Michigan players. How much is that a distraction? 8 players are suspended indefinitely. How does Michigan State look coming off that? Really bad black eye for the program. I'll take Illinois minus 17 and over 41 in this one. I think Illinois does kind of get some stuff going against this Michigan State team. Finally, to round out the Big Ten games, number 5, Michigan at Rutgers. This is the last game of the night, I believe, time-wise. Michigan minus 26.5 is the line. Over-under is 44.5. Michigan is really, really good, and I think that they are capable of beating just about anybody in the country. Don't know if they can beat Ohio State yet, but I think that they are capable of beating just about anybody else. Rutgers is really bad, and I don't see this one being that close. You got Blake Corum on Michigan. That's basically all they should need. Just ride him and allow him to put the game out of reach. Give me Michigan minus 26 and over 44.5 in this game. And that's how I see it wrapping up in the Big Ten this week. It'll be an exciting week. You got more teams in action than we've seen the last few times. All of these lines, of course, are brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. In a second here, we are going to take a look at what is happening around the country and what I think is truly, truly an exciting week around the country. Not any ranked matchups or anything in the Big Ten this week. Some lopsided lines. You had a couple lines, really, I guess 2 that are one-possession lines in the Big Ten this week. But around the country, some fascinating games to keep an eye on, and we're going to talk about those in just a second. But first, thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, now we are through the Big Ten. Let us look around the country at the games that caught my eye. And starts with the one that's plays here in a few hours. Number 23, Oregon State at Washington. 2 6-2 teams out on the West Coast. Washington is a late game tonight. 9:30 Central Time, if I recall correctly. The line is Washington minus 4.5. Over under of 53.5. Look, Oregon State is very solid. Washington is exciting. They put up numbers on offense. Both teams don't really have the most impressive wins. In fact, you can make an argument that neither team has an impressive win on the schedule. For that reason, I'm going to go with the Beavs. Just gut feeling, feel good story. Just like Kansas, Oregon State's not good very often. Give me the Beavs with the chainsaws. Oregon State plus 4.5, over 53.5 in this one. And yeah, I hope to see Oregon State continue their climb up the top 25. Next up, the game of the day. Chance to be right there with that Alabama-Tennessee game for game of the year. Number 1, Tennessee at number 3, Georgia. The 2:30 Central Time CBS game. The line is Georgia minus 8 in this one. Over under of 66.5. Tennessee is explosive. Georgia has Brock Bowers on their offense, but at times that offense goes weirdly silent. The defense limits explosive play, so it's a little bit of a battle of an unstoppable force versus an immovable object of this Tennessee offense versus this Georgia defense. I expect Tennessee is a challenge that Georgia has not seen all year. A team that can throw it deep, throw it down the field over your head. Is your young secondary up to the challenge, Georgia? I don't know. I think it's something they haven't seen, and I think the line is so big at 8 points, especially for the number 1 team on the road. Give me Tennessee plus 8 over 66.5 in that one. Next up, number 18, Oklahoma State in the Big 12 on the road at Kansas. Kansas has been the feel-good story of the year. along with Syracuse and kind of Oregon State now. Look at that. Three typical bottom feeder programs that have climbed their way at various points into the top 25. A couple of them have fallen off a little bit now. The line on this game, it's a pick 'em. It's a pick 'em. The over-under is 62.5. Oklahoma State's reeling after that 48-0 shellacking that they took to Kansas State. Kansas has slipped a little bit. But look, I think the Pokes, I think the Cowboys of Oklahoma State, I think the Pokes get back on track here. Give me Oklahoma State in the pick'em over 63.5 in that game. Next up, number 20, Syracuse, another one of those teams that we've talked about. They've lost a couple in a row at Pittsburgh. Pitt is a 4-point favorite in this one, over under of 48. I think this is a Syracuse bounce back spot. Pitt is just so inconsistent this year, although they did weirdly play the toughest game besides Alabama that Tennessee has seen all year, kept them to the lowest point total of the year, 34 points somehow. Look, Syracuse has Sean Tucker and Garrett Schrader. They can run the football. Syracuse +4, under 48 in this one. Next up, the other big game in the SEC, the other biggest game of the night. Number 6, Alabama at number 10, LSU. Alabama's a 13.5-point favorite in this game. Over under of 57. Bama's just too good, I think. I know that they're mortal this year. They're not what we've expected out of Alabama teams of the past, but Bryce Young is better than Jaden Daniels. He absolutely is, and there will be a moment where Bryce Young proves that to you, where a free runner is coming at him. He sidesteps and does something crazy, hits a huge play down the field. That's what he's best at, and that's how he won a Heisman Trophy last year, and I don't see that stopping this year. But a night game in Death Valley should make it interesting, but I don't think it's enough. Give me Alabama -13.5, under 57 in this one. Next up, ranked matchup here in the Big 12. Number 24, Texas at number 13, Kansas State. Texas is a 2.5-point favorite in this game, despite being the lower ranked team on the road. Over under 54.5. Texas is inconsistent. Arguably could have and should have lost other games on the schedule. They're 5-3. K-State can run the football, or as Deion Sanders would say, Kansas State can run. Emaw, got to go with the battle cry of K-State on this one. You're playing in Manhattan, Kansas. Tough place to play. Night game. I think it's going to be a loud environment, a raucous environment that I don't think Texas is going to handle well, especially with the way. Look, K-State's the most unique offense you're going to see in the Big 12. They just shellacked, beat them up and down the field. Oklahoma State, Kansas State +2.5, over 54.5, and this one is my pick. Finally, we get to the final two. Battle of name brands here. Number 4, Clemson at Notre Dame. We've seen them play a few times here recently. Clemson's a 3.5-point favorite, over under of 44. This is going to be a rock fight. Great defenses, bad offenses. DJ Uiagalelei is not good. He sucks. He's horrible. Notre Dame's gotten a lot better. I'm not sure Clemson's gotten that much better. I think they just are fortunate to play in a garbage conference. Give me Notre Dame +3.5, under 44 in that one. I think Notre Dame wins the game outright. This is the first blemish on the perfect Clemson's record I'm calling a shot there. Next up, number 21, Wake Forest at number 22, NC State. Battle of the other two ranked teams in the ACC. The line is Wake -3.5 in this one, over under 54. Wake's offense is awesome. Sam Hartman is so much better than whoever plays quarterback for NC State, because it's not Devin Leary. And that's really why this NC State team has just kind of been hanging by a thread. This is where I think it starts to come undone. Give me Wake -3.5. and over 54. And those are the picks around the country. All of them are brought to you by, all those lines are brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Just enjoying getting to finally talk about some basketball and talking about what I think is going to be a really, really awesome weekend in college football. I'm looking forward to it. There's so many games that I want to keep my eye on. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I'm your host, Carter Byrd. Thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. You can find us. Make sure wherever you are listening, you are subscribed. Turn on notifications. Make sure you don't miss an episode. Leave a comment. Leave some feedback. We'd love to improve the show. We'd love to get your feedback. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. You can follow me on social media at CarterBird13. And I will see you all next time.